Bzu Shiferaw is a believer that childhood should be a time composed of human connection and a natural curiosity for the world without the heavy influence of digital society. She is a passionate advocate for youth and is inspired to uplift young people to have the freedom of maintaining their own creativity and interest. Bzu is the campaign organizer with our great colleagues and friends at Fairplay. For over 25 years, Fairplay has been leading the fight. They're the voice, actually, to enhance children's well-being by eliminating harmful business practices and of marketers of big tech. The website is fairplayforkids.org. Bzu, it's great to have you here on The Warriors. I'm thrilled and humbled that you're with me. You have such great information to share with us. We're going to be talking about what families need to know and what must happen next and how they can help us and take action. So first, I'm going to welcome you to The Warriors.
Thank you so much, Lynn. It's great to be here, and I've been a big fan of your show, and I know a few people from Fairplay have come in and shared our work, so I'm grateful for this opportunity to talk about generative AI and what we can be doing about it.
Thank you, Bzu. I mean, I can't gush enough about Fairplay. They do excellent work, and it's not just, the usual. This is what I'm saying, talking about it. It's always with take actions. It's always with sharing with communities. There's always a purpose, and that's what we love at the Warriors. Before we start, I want to ask you a question, Bzu. Tell us a little bit about you, whatever you feel like you want to share with our Warriors.
Yeah, I can mention I came into this work right out of undergrad, and I had studied journalism, and I thought a lot about writing about advocacy work because it was just something that naturally I was passionate about. I've done a lot of community service as a teenager that made me really passionate about helping people. And as I was finishing my undergrad career, I realized I don't think I wanted to write about advocates, but rather be one myself. Yeah. And I pivoted from there to looking into the nonprofit space. And I was born and raised in Boston, and Fairplay started in Boston. So I was able to go in for an interview, and it was so great to be with people who thought the same way I did. And I'm the type of person, I am 26, so I grew up with part of my childhood before, smartphones and social media, and a part after. And I saw how that really shifted my peers and our values and the way that we viewed ourselves. So it was really great to see an organization like Fairplay who is dedicated to this issue and talking about marketing, talking about maximizing for engagement online. So that was, it's been a really great experience to be here and to advocate for young people.
I love that. You know why? Your energy in telling your story, Bzu, is like infectious for me. So it's like I can talk about things till I'm blue in the face, but when I, share along with younger people, that's what really matters to society, that we bring ourselves all together, right? And talk about these issues, because what you experience, I never experienced that at my age kind of thing. And we need that kind of what I call boots on the ground, kind of, you're the lived example of all of this. Okay, now we're going to start with the big question for our Warriors listening. Explain to us, give us a clear picture. What is this AI slop I'm hearing about, and why should we all be, I'm going to say deeply concerned about all of this surrounding kids and families?
Yeah. So I want to start out by saying that when we're thinking of AI, we're typically talking about generative AI, which is a type of artificial intelligence that creates new content like text, images, videos, and conversation. When folks are talking about AI slop, it's really what it is low quality, mass-produced AI content, a lot of it targeting kids. So we've seen things like AI like fruit that are giving songs about brushing your teeth, about going to bed. And a lot of it has really flooded, especially in YouTube is what we've seen. And some of them can spread misinformation. It can distort reality. It is a lot of color and pictures going on. None of it really makes sense. And we've seen from experts warning that this content can be overwhelming, can overwhelm learning, can distort kids' understanding of the world and hijack their attention.
So it's basically slop. It's basically just a disruptor, I would say. Would you agree with that? To confuse kids or to keep them online. I'm glad you brought up about what. Let me ask you something. And where does all? Because I get this question every day. I know my answer. I want to hear from you. Where does people say this to me all the time? Where does AI or AG, like where do they get all of their information from? This is what they ask me.
Yeah, they get it from the people. So everything that we're inputting from them, they're using to create and better their platforms and their softwares, their learning machines, really. So the more information that we're getting, the better their output can be, and that can be to our benefit, and it can also be to our detriment. So it's really concerning when there aren't guardrails in place to protect people and especially children.
Right. They scrape, in other words, the internet. So everything
Mhm.
we're even talking right now, they're scraping it somewhere and they're going to put this somewhere, uh, and then grab from that. I want to ask you, Fairplay really has been at the forefront, really a leader and very vocal about slowing things down. Now, I say, 1996 basically is the birth of the internet. That's what it's
Mhm.
considered. And now we have 30 years later, we have proof, right? We
Yep.
we we have the studies, we have the stats, we have doctors, we have the children themselves, families. We even have recently 2 court cases, okay, proving harms to children, right? So we want to slow things down, and you have a great campaign, and I really want to focus on this because I always say, Bzu, every day, like, okay, didn't we learn from the last 30 years, and now we're just
Mhm.
dumping this artificial intelligence, which I'll just share with you. I have a hard time with that word because I feel like artificial and intelligence don't belong together, frankly, but that's just me. But tell us about this campaign because I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but this whole thing is like there's a lot going on. It's complex. I don't understand really. Did we not learn about the harms in the last 30 years, and now we're just dumping it in the schools and dumping it into the overwhelmed
Mhm.
families and government and jobs and all over. So I know I gave you a lot, but just let's dig in and get into the campaign.
Yeah. So, as you said, the AI tools, generative AI, is being implemented into classrooms, and we've seen this sort of rush, and there seems to be this kind of idea that AI needs to be kids need to be ready for AI because the world is rapidly changing. So there seems to be this big push and rushing all of these tools into the classroom. But these tools are being implemented without oversight, without parental consent, and without any sort of transparency. So we Fairplay recently launched a campaign for a 5-year pause in schools on generative AI until we can prove that the safety of children is ensured in these tools before we let them run amok with children. And so essentially in that pause, in that statement that we put out, we're asking the basic safety questions. Can these tools expose kids to harmful or misleading content? Does it compromise student privacy? Does it create emotional dependence on chatbots? Does it enable cheating and spread misinformation? And what we're saying is until those questions are answered, these tools just do not belong in schools.
Yeah. And understand in the body of this video, I will have all of the information and all of the links, and everybody can take their time and read more and click on things and contact, you at Fairplay, contact us at the Warriors, because we really want everybody to get on board because I think that
Yeah.
AI is the thing right now that we must all focus on, all of us. It's not like you can't. I really believe in 2026, Bzu, like we all have a duty in
Yeah.
America, to step up and be involved, and we can and we must be involved in all of this. Um, I want to break it down a little bit more. When Let's talk about parents and AI. What should they really look for right now? Because I'm in the middle of New York City and I talk about this stuff 7 days a week. I'm not kidding you. I mean, people see me sometimes and start running because I just will keep digging in about this just to educate. Um, what is something they should do right now with their child, whether, both in the home regarding AI and both in the
Mhm.
classroom, or we can focus on the classroom right now. I'm very concerned about that because even educators are reporting to me it's like just dumped on them and they're not even sure what's going on.
Exactly. And, that's one thing we talk about in our pause is that it's happening without any sort of parental consent. So parents aren't even aware of what is going on in their child's classroom. And really, if we can focus on the classroom first, AI tools cannot take the place of the teacher, but we're seeing more and more frequently these tools are being implemented. Kids are just being exposed to untested tools, and we don't know if it's really going to benefit them. There is no proof that it will help learning outcomes. There is no long-term independent research saying it improves anything. And what we're saying is, even if AI might have educational value someday, why rush? Schools should not be testing unproven technologies on children. So what I'd really ask for parents is, and when we put out this statement on a 5-year AI pause in schools, we also put out a petition that was signed by hundreds of advocates. And we also are developing, we have a one-pager, are developing a model policy that parents can take a look at and give to their school, their teachers, their child's teachers, principals, maybe someone from the school board, and really start this conversation of what are we doing in this school system? How can we better benefit children and protect them online, before we just kind of see this as the norm. And I would say in the home, one thing that parents can be doing is starting the conversation with their child, seeing what they are looking at on their phones, and every household is different. Some parents their child might not even have a phone, but their kid might be able to see it from a friend's phone. So really starting the conversation so that they understand what AI is. You and I can understand it because we're adults, we have fully formed brains, but children do not have that within them. They don't have that sort of impulse control. And so they're not able to decipher, and we don't want this to distort their reality. So I think kind of cutting through and seeing what they're being exposed to. I think right now chatbots are not good for children. We don't know we've seen, a lot of the real harms that they can do because these tools are unproven. A lot of the content and conversations that could be had on there are not age appropriate. And sometimes it can, promote things that are harmful for the child. So we really want to be careful about children using those kinds of tools right now.
Yeah, and Bzu, I was shocked during the holiday season. I had some of your colleagues, I spoke with them, I interviewed them
Oh.
about the AI toys. So Fairplay
Mm-hmm.
has done a terrific job in sounding the alarm and waking up. And I fear, I don't fear, I know that is probably our future. Like
Yeah.
that was probably like a soft launch, and now, we're gonna have everything's going to have AI in it, because I don't like even saying this because it's crass, but I think it's the truth. Money. This all generates income and advertising and keeping kids addicted,
Mm-hmm.
eyeballs on all of this. Again, just money, money, money. What do you think? Let me ask you something. What Okay, so once again, let me go back on this. We're rolling out this technology. By the way, a couple of things. We at the Warriors, we work with some great, very ethical technologists. I mean, there's a lot of good. There is AI. If we could truly say, it could be a true tutorial for children and empower them and help them, because we know K through 12, all the grades are lacking across the United States, in everything. If it could truly empower them, as we want that. We want the AI to work for us. We don't want the kids working for the AI kind of thing, which is, I think,
Yeah.
is where it's at right now. Um, it's so shocking. Right now, who's holding any of these big tech companies accountable? Do you want to touch on any of this?
Yeah, and I think it goes with our broader mission at Fairplay of holding big tech
Yeah.
accountable and these marketing techniques. And right now, no one really is when it comes to AI. We've done a number of campaigns, this AI pause, worked on AI slop and AI toys. But right now, I think we're starting this conversation and starting this work about holding these companies accountable for the harms that they put onto children. And I think what's happened is, in the last few years, we've talked a lot about the harms on social media, seeing cyberbullying, eating disorder content, things of that nature. But the harms of AI has come up within the midst of that. So it seems almost like a part two or an evolution of harm that can happen online. And it's happened so quickly that we're really catching up and trying to put a pause on these things and really hold these companies accountable, working with legislators to stop the rapid expansion of these products that are untested. So another thing that Fairplay has been working on in the whole AI space is we in collaboration with Consumer Federation of America and the Electronic Privacy Information Center, we created a model legislation called the People's First Chatbot Bill. And what this bill is a comprehensive approach to chatbot harm specifically. And the bill actually would protect all people, not just children, and would ensure the technology will be safer for everyone. And the bill was designed to, prohibit the most harmful practices like data collection and forming unhealthy attachments. And it really tackles the core motivation companies have to exploit users, and instead incentivizes responsible innovation and safety by design. So this is something that we've been looking to introduce and pass in multiple state legislators. So this has been a part of our AI focus, and we think that this can be something that will be helpful and cut through some of the rapid AI expansion that we're talking about. But we see it in so many levels, and that's really why we want this pause, because we need to talk to schools, we need to talk to legislators and administrators and parents and learn about the implications and uses of generative AI in education. We need to be able to ask questions and to provide feedback.
Yeah. I also want to point out, this entire issue, child safety, AI, phone-free classrooms, schools, all of it is bipartisan work. It really belongs to no political party. We want everyone to get on board with all of this, to come together to work on these issues, because we really need, Bzu, we need the public. You and me know a lot of this, others know a lot of this, organizations, but especially with legislation, we need people, to contact their reps. I'll put all that in the body of this video to voice their, we want this, we support this. It's very important for the public to understand they do have a voice in all of this, and we want them to have a voice in all of this. An example I loved, because I think you were like the first ones with the phone-free classrooms and all that, or I had a toolkit, which of course at the Warriors, we utilize all of your great work and research. Like, you make it easy for me, but that being said, that's true collaboration. Lots of times we talk about collaboration, and then I think, in my opinion, then I don't see it. So I see with Fairplay and some other great organizations, there is collaboration. That's the hope right now. Although we're talking about very complex issues for everybody, our warriors out there, there's a lot of solutions right now. There's a lot of great free resources, which we're going to have from Fairplay. And we are coming together, and more voices are speaking out. Parents are coming together, sharing their stories, right? Sharing about their children. So they don't want other families, children harmed, right? Parents harmed. Let's go into, I think it is very important to keep talking about what happened with phone-free classrooms, phone-free schools.
Yeah. And phone-free schools has been kind of like the precursor to this AI work. And we had worked, I think about almost 2 years ago now, we started a phone-free schools campaign. And what we advocate for is what we call bell-to-bell policies, which means from the first bell to the last bell, phones are locked in away. And this can be done by, through various methods. So we worked in various states and, through coalitions, because we really can't do this work without community, as you mentioned, and with, dedicated parents and teachers and school administrators to implement these policies state by state. And there has been, I think, at least 22 states now, and the District of Columbia have passed legislation. So it's something that everybody is focused on. We're still, working on those remaining states, but everyone is focused on this issue, and there is some dedication there. It's just more so about, the specific state legislators and, how those timelines work. But this has been really helpful because, we've heard from teachers that cafeterias are quiet. Kids are in classrooms and they don't even know the names of the students sitting next to them because they are just on their phones. And we know that these phones and social media are designed to maximize engagement for their own profits, right? These tools are being shown to kids. We don't know what they're watching. We know that there's a lot of harm to be found there. Most of them shouldn't be on there if you're under 13, based on the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, but that still happens. And so what we've seen is that shift of when these policies are implemented and the cafeterias are loud and lively again. Kids are playing cards and games. They're learning to be creative. They're learning that, boredom is an opportunity, right? It's not something to shy away from. It's an opportunity to connect. It's an opportunity to engage with one another. So it's been a really great campaign and something that we're still pushing for. And really, this AI work kind of branched off of that because as we were getting into this phone-free schools campaign and things were, going well, we were making great progress. We started to have the conversation of, okay, but there's still ed tech, right? There's still devices being put into kids like Chromebooks and
Yeah.
iPads. And we've kind of seen this before where schools were promised transformation, like better outcomes, personalized learning opportunities, but all we saw really was more screen time and distraction and little evidence of improved learning. And we've seen that AI is being marketed the same way, and we should be skeptical. And really what we're saying is until we know these tools are safe, effective, and equitable, they don't belong in classrooms. Until we know AI won't harm mental health, it doesn't belong. If it won't undermine privacy, if it won't replace teachers or worsen inequality, it doesn't belong in our schools.
Yeah. You said a mouthful. Where should I go with this? I'm here in New York City, and we have in New York State, we have the bell to bell,
Yeah.
very proud to say were part of that. And teachers were telling me they were so happy. They heard kids screaming in the cafeteria and hallways and like talking with each other and running around for, a little bit like, the sixth, seventh grade, playgrounds and playing tag and not sitting on a bench, like looking at a phone. And they said they never thought they'd be so happy to hear so much noise in this school. And that's what we want. We want this, to get the kids out of this isolation, which is well documented, right? Fueled by the devices, and get them interacting. That will help with a lot of the mental health harms. That's for another program. But I want to ask you about something I've been hearing a lot about, and again, a lot of the parents, Bzu, right,
Mhm.
started this. They would take, for instance, your toolkit, go to their school, get one or two other parents, maybe go to a teacher, go to the guidance counselor, principal, and start talking about it. That's grassroots. That's how it starts. That's how it started here in New York. That's how we were doing it, kind of very grassroots. And that's spreading across the country. But the other thing I want to talk about, I'm hearing about, do you know anything about this pencil to paper now that's kind of sweeping by parents across the country? Because you mentioned it. So we get the phones out, right? Bell to bell. But the kids are still using Chromebooks.
Yeah.
Right. And there was something I read, don't ask me where, fairly recently, that about 97% of kids on devices in the classroom, like they're still going to look at TikTok during the day. They're still going to go to Snap during the day. Are you hearing anything about this kind of, get these Chromebooks out and let's replace it with old fashioned, a bunch of papers for your assignments? What do you hear?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's something that we've seen in our member groups at Fairplay, where people are focused really on ed tech. So trying to get these like iPads and Chromebooks out of
Yeah.
classrooms.
Yeah.
And, there has been research that the teachers have seen now kids can't hold a pencil for very long. They can't write for very long because they've been on these devices since kindergarten. And it's really alarming. So I am all for this, pencil and paper push and shift. I think that we need to slow down and we don't have to see these things as inevitable. Of course, they can have some educational value, but we need to make sure that kids are using it with agency, right? With safety in mind.
Yeah.
They're not just using them as a way where these tools are really, using them and learning from them. And we want kids to be able to use them as a way to, benefit themselves. So I am definitely all for it. I don't know too much about how the pencil and paper campaign is going, but I think we're seeing this as part of a shift, right? We saw the phones being implemented. Now we have all these bans on phones in schools. We're seeing now with AI, and so I think all of these things are showing that the rapid expansion of technology has its benefits, but we also need to keep the safety and well-being of children at the forefront of this work.
Yeah, I mean, I love it going back to because one parent was telling me they were told, oh, you have to use a Chromebook. It's like law. I'm like, there's no laws like you have to that I know about. I mean, I don't create laws, but I'm like, no, your child. And what happened there, Bzu, is other kids started. And so she was granted this parent for her child. Like, okay, we're going to give you once a week a package of papers and a textbook. And the mother was like all for it. You know what happened? Other kids thought it was cool That's great. And they want it, the package and the textbook. So I'm like, whoa, there's hope. There's hope, for our young people. If the kids themselves are thinking that's cool for a textbook and a package, that's exactly what we need to sweep the country and to get into the classrooms with all of that. Let me ask you something. And also, I just want to mention kids can't, we work with a lot of teachers across the country. Kids can't track, like read, because they're so used, they just swipe, swipe, swipe on devices kind of thing.
Mm.
And they just can't. And so many have said, which you pointed out, they cannot even hold a pencil. It's actually like physically hard for them, and it hurts their hand, and they can't do it, kind of thing, because they've been born in the digital bubble. Not anybody's fault, no judgment here. It's like they've been born in the digital bubble. I would say I always say 30 and under is born in the digital bubble. Like you didn't ask for this, parents didn't ask for this, nobody asked for this. It's thrust on us. The part I have a problem with is now we have learned so much. Why rush into and dump this AI on everybody? Let me ask you something. Answer if you want, don't answer, Bzu. Your demo, like your age group, right? What do they report to you about all of this? Do you ever have conversations with them, like about any of this, or what do they talk about, or how is that landscape?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. I think that, the people that I know are definitely just naturally more aligned with how I think. So they see these tools as helpful, but they also see, especially with kids, how harmful it can be. I think my peers and I have talked about social media and how it's affected us, making giving us insecurities we didn't know that we had. And so we talk about generative AI and like things like ChatGPT. And what if I had that in high school? That would not have been beneficial for me. And I think that I do say there are some people who maybe don't see the harm parts of it. They see just, this opportunity to get all of this information, to have all of these tools that can be helpful in whatever they're working on. But at the same time, safety has to be at the forefront. And I think that, really holding these tech companies accountable, when I point that out to them, that the companies should be held accountable, that they should have an obligation to put the well-being of people, especially children, at the forefront, they really sort of get it. And so I think all that takes is conversation and really talking about it. But I think that almost everyone I talk to knows that there's something wrong with, all the phones, everyone is addicted. So it's definitely something that pretty much everybody knows.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so very hopeful, even though this
Yeah.
topic, all of this is harmful, that they are, because I'm seeing it, I want to say even in the last year, really picking up where people are getting on board, people are talking about it more, asking questions, or they're asking me like, how can I help? What can I do? Which is why Fairplay is so important, because you have the toolkits, you have the resources, you have where they can just take this stuff and implement it into their home and their community. I want to finish up, bottom line is, look, if we don't keep speaking out and up and just keep talking about it, that's what big tech, is counting on. Like, everybody will go away and they'll just keep going. There's no regulation right now. I do think we're at a moment where this is going to begin to change, right? Where do you see this heading for our next generation? Say the kids born, right now. I don't even know what generation is this. Alpha? I don't know what generation, whatever their name is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Alpha. No, I think there's a new one that just came up. I saw something recently, but anyway, where do you think this is heading? I'll tell you why, because I've had some new parents reaching out to me saying, knowing what we do at the Warriors and seeing, when I post about Fairplay and where are we heading with kids right now
Yeah.
in the future?
Yeah, I think what we've seen in the past like 15 years is that pendulum swinging towards all of these technologies being implemented, kids using social media, now on generative AI. And I'm an optimist, so I'm going to hope that the pendulum swings back and we, hold these companies accountable. We implement legislation that puts the well-being of kids first. We force these companies to put the well-being of children and within their policies, within their tools that they develop. And while kids may use them, but they are like definitely limited so that it doesn't affect them in the long term, and it only benefits them, and they can use them with agency, right? It is their choice, not something that they feel like they have to. So that is my hope, and we can only really do this as a community. Coalitions are so important. Grassroots advocates are, the bedrock of our work. So happy to work with anyone. I think we're only as good as our community. These companies have billions of dollars that they're spending on marketing and lobbying to legislators.
Yes.
So we really have to show that support as a group.
Yeah. You know what? The website, everybody, again, everything will be in the body of the video, fairplayforkids.org. But when I hear Bzu, first I was hearing last year lobbyists on Capitol Hill, big tech employing one lobbyist for every 6 members. And then I'm hearing recently it's 1 in 4. I got to research that a little bit, but we don't have all of that. But you know what we have? We have truth on our side, history on our side. We have parents, right, on our side, educators on our side, fair play on our side. And I really think you used one of my favorite words, pendulum, because I'm a great believer in the pendulum. We're seeing it is slightly swinging back. And I think we're going to see this big swing coming up in 2026, going into 2027. So, Bzu, I want to thank you for sharing. Okay, it's a Sunday morning, for joining me, bringing clarity. And really, this is an urgent matter that we have to keep talking about, substance to the conversation, bringing all, if you don't mind my saying, bringing your age, your demo into it, because I think that is so important, because I'm so tired of my age saying, hey, I didn't grow up with social media. Like, I don't know about it. Well, okay, I didn't, but I know about it, right? If you have children or grandchildren, you have to learn things. It's not that tough. And you've got fair play to direct you in all directions. I'm so grateful for your insight and your time and commitment to the fight. And so I'm going to be bringing everybody to fair play to take action on everything. And promise me that we'll speak more frequently, because I really do want to say we have to just keep talking about this constantly and get the word and take actions out there. So thank you for joining me today. Promise me you'll come back sooner rather than later, and we'll keep talking.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Bzu. We'll talk again soon.